Hello, and welcome to this WP Cloud Deploy product overview. In this video, we'll take a look at how the WordPress admin panel can be used to manage your WordPress servers and sites via WP Cloud Deploy. Here on the All Cloud Server screen, we see a list of servers from various providers. The first column shows the name of the server. The second column shows the group the server belongs to. In the third column, you can click Install WordPress to create a WordPress installation on that server, and the fourth column displays some basic details about the server, such as the provider, region, size, instance ID, and the IPv4 address. We also have a column that shows the local status, the apps that are hosted on that server, and the sync status. Let's click on one of these servers and take a look at the server configuration options available in WP Cloud Deploy. Here on the Services tab, we can go ahead and refresh the service status to see the status of our various services on the site. Now we can scroll down to take a look at our core services status. We see that Nginx is running and MariaDB is running. We can also see the status of memcached. We can see the status and toggle on and off our UFW firewall. We can also see the status of our malware and virus scanner if we have one active, and configure notifications. We can set up an email gateway. We can test our email gateway. We can see the status and clear the cache on our Redis object cache. And finally, at the very bottom, we can add a description, notes, labels, and custom links. Custom links can be used to link directly to a help desk or server page on a server provider or anything that's convenient for that server. Now let's scroll up and take a look at the Firewall tab. Here we have the ability to open or close specific ports. Traditional hosting companies tend to keep most ports closed, and WP Cloud Deploy does by default as well. But WP Cloud Deploy offers you the ability to open any port that you need. Now let's take a look at the SSH Console tab. The SSH Console tab allows you to send a single SSH command to your server and displays the result or output of that command. Note that you should exercise caution when issuing SSH commands to your server. We can also disable this tab by clicking the Hide This Tab button. The tab can be restored by making a special entry in the WP config file on the site hosting your WP Cloud Deploy dashboard. Now let's take a look at our applications. Here we have a complete list of all websites or applications managed by WP Cloud Deploy. We can filter these by a number of different options here at the top. For instance, if we want to see only websites hosted on a specific server, we can do that here. Or if we want to see only websites that belong to a specific app group, we can do that here. Now let's take a look at the settings available on one of these sites. Simply click the site name. Now we're on the site settings screen. Here we see our domain name, the IP address, a link to the admin area for this website, a link to the front end of the website, and a link to view the other apps on this server. As we scroll down, we have a number of menu options to explore. First, in the General tab, we see a general overview of the site's status. We can go to Backup and Restore to configure backup jobs. The SSL tab allows us to enable SSL on this site. The Cache tab allows us to control some cache settings and enable or disable the Nginx and memcached caching options, as well as Redis. Next is the SFTP tab. In this tab, we can add and manage SFTP users. Next up is the Clone Site tab. Here we can make a copy of this site to a new domain name. Similarly, under the Copy to Server tab, we can copy this site to another server. Under the Crons tab, we can set up a Linux cron that replaces the WordPress cron. This is very useful for high-volume sites. WordPress checks cron every time a page is loaded. If this isn't desirable for your site, you can set the custom cron to run at set intervals. Now let's move on to the PHP tab. Here you can restart the PHP FPM service. You can change the PHP version. You can add or update some common PHP options, or set custom values in your PHP configuration. Next, let's look at the Change Domain tab. Here we have the option to change this website to a new domain. We have the quick change option, which changes everything necessary on the server side without running a full search and replace in the database. The full live option does run a full search and replace in the database. And then we have a full dry run option that allows you to preview the changes made by a full live run to ensure everything looks correct before running a search and replace in the database. Now let's take a look at the miscellaneous tab. Here we can set up password protection with HTTP basic authentication. We can enable or disable the site. We can completely remove the site and all backups. And we can enable or disable HTTPS. Next up is the Tools tab. Here we can enable or disable the WordPress debug log, and we can add an administrator to the site. We can also set up Nginx rules for easy digital downloads. We can reset restricted PHP functions, and we can clear background processes. Now let's take a look at the Database tab. Here we can install and access phpMyAdmin to manipulate our site's database directly. Next up is the 6G Firewall tab. Here we can enable or disable all 6G firewall rules, or enable or disable each rule individually. Finally, we have our Statistics tab. And here we have some basic information about our site. And that about covers all of the site-level controls that WPCloudDeploy offers. We can also group servers and color code each group for easy organization. Similarly, we can also create app groups. This allows you to quickly identify a category or status of an app or server. Now, let's take a look at our command log. Logs are maintained for every command sent out to a server. The command log will show you long-running commands like a site clone, whereas the SSH log will show you shorter commands. We can also take a look at our error log, virtual providers, and some additional settings for WPCloudDeploy. This has been a product overview of WPCloudDeploy. As you can see, WPCloudDeploy offers incredibly powerful capabilities for managing your servers and sites from directly within your WordPress admin panel.